Hello and welcome to the Cute Baby Tutorials using Gimp. I may do a few things in this video, so if you want to go straight to one of the main sections, then the times they start are shown on your screen now. These videos are also available in higher definition on my website, along with any original files I'm allowed to give you in case you want to work on the same image as me. Just click on the link below. Okay, here we go. Right, well, this is a very nice photograph. A rare English summer day. But you can see the problem with this. The baby's face is very dark, the mother's face is in bright sunshine, so we've got this difference in levels of brightness. We can see what we can do to correct that. We'll do what we normally do. Come to this little folder icon in the Layers palette, left click, call it Fix, come to my Eraser layer and duplicate it, call it Base, and drag it into the Fix folder, and we're ready to go. Alright, now I need to affect that layer. I'm going to come to Colors, Curves, which we've used before. Bring the box over a little bit. I'm going to use the Color Picker, which comes up whenever you use the Color Curves palette. I'm going to start clicking around, and you can see this line is telling me how bright these pixels are. I don't want to affect the bright parts of the image, so I'm going to put a control point about there, so this upper curve isn't so affected. Now I'm going to come here, put another point here, and start dragging that up. And you can see the baby's face is getting brighter. This is lighter than I would normally make it, but I'm doing this so that when you see this on YouTube or Vimeo, or wherever you see it first of all, you can clearly see the effect rather than wondering what I'm doing. Change the green as well. It's looking a bit green, so I'll put another control point. And I want to take down that green so it's got a slightly more ready face. And you see that's making a big difference. I'm going to take that back up to roughly where it was, and I'm going to use my up-down arrow keys on my keyboard to nudge that down. I keep on clicking, clicking, clicking. Eventually about, say, there, that'll do it. Click on OK, see what we've got. So I'll come to my Layers palette, and I'm going to click on the eye icon on the layer I've just affected, make it invisible. That's the original, very, very dark. Okay, that's light. But if you take a look at Mum's head, especially around just where the light meets the shadow, that's the original, that's the new layer. You can see I'm getting an area here of grey. That's because the light and the dark values there have been a bit too compressed. So what we need, the lighter baby, but we need to get rid of some of this new layer that we've just created. Well, there's different ways of doing it. I'm going to use two methods here. One is using the eraser tool, and the other is using something called a layer mask. But for now, I'm going to take the layer that I just adjusted. I'm going to call it the eraser, and then I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to call the new layer layer mask. Okay, I'll make that one invisible for now. We don't need it for now. And click on eraser. So, need to get rid of this top area. So we come over to our eraser, this little pink square thing, just like the school erasers I used to have. Take a look at this, the size, and make that nice and big. And we're ready to start erasing. Here we go. That is not what we want at all. Okay, so what do we do about that? Right, well, I didn't want that to erase to white. I want that to erase so that I can see the underlying layer. The reason it didn't do that is because by default, Gimp doesn't give us something called an alpha channel. What's that? Well, an alpha channel basically controls how transparent your layer is. Come to Edit, Undo Eraser, and then I'm going to come to my layer, the eraser layer. I'm going to right click, come all the way down here to Add Alpha Channel. I'm not really sure why that doesn't come on by default. Maybe it's to save on memory when you're using the program. And the other thing as well is the brush is too hard. I want a softer brush. Let's try this one here. Now, let's try erasing. Let's come to Mum's face and start erasing stuff. Yeah, you can start to see that is erasing quite nicely there. Let's come down here. Oh, actually that area around the chest and the t-shirt, that could do with belonging to the new layer because it looks better, it's not too dark. So I'm going to have to undo that, and I've undone all my work. That's one thing. When you are using things like Eraser, Don't spend ages with your left mouse button all pressed down, because then if you make a mistake like I just did, you're only going to have to come back and undo everything and then start again. So make short strokes, erase what you need. You can see here in the light background, well, I didn't really affect that. Remember when I was in curves and I stopped the lighter areas from getting too dark? Well, that's worked there, so you don't really see much of a difference there. Okay, it's getting a little bit slow here, so what I will do is I'll come to my free select tool and I'll start clicking out an area just to get rid of all this area. It'll probably work out a little bit quicker than me spending a lot of time erasing. And come back to it. Then I'll click on delete. That's got rid of all of that stuff at the top in one go. I'll press Ctrl-Shift-A to get rid of it. Come back to my eraser tool. Do I need to get rid of this layer around the hand? Yeah, maybe I do, just to make it a little bit darker. And what about this forearm? Do I need to erase? Yeah, getting a slight grey area around there, so I'll do that there. Okay, let's see what we've got here. I'm going to hide my original file. That's what I've erased. You can see these slight hard edges there. I don't want those. Get rid of that bit there. Come down to here. If I have a hard edge there, that might show up when I return back to this layer. It's quite big, this eraser, so I can't make very precise adjustments to this. But now, when I put up the underlying file, yeah, definite improvement. If I hide this layer, you can see the baby's dark. If I show it again, the baby's lighter. I'm going to make my eraser layer invisible now. So I've got the original image, and I'm going to make my layer mask visible. That's what we want to work on. Now this time we're going to use something called a layer mask. So right click, come down and add layer mask. Let's bring my little dialog box over. Initialize layer mask to white full opacity. That's what I want. So add. Okay, so if you take a look here, I've got my layer and I've got a little white box next to it. I'm going to click on that. So what is it? Basically, it's a white area that you can't see at the moment on the picture. If it's white, you can see all of this layer. If I add some black to it, you're going to see transparent areas. Think of it this way. If you want to see this layer, white's all right. If you add black, it's like you're making a black hole and you can see any underlying layers underneath. Let's try it. Come to our paintbrush tool. I've got black selected here. Let's take a look at my brush size. That seems okay. It's fairly soft around the edges. Don't paint on the actual image. If I come here now, I'm just making black. I've got to come over to my layers palette and make sure the layer mask is selected. So left click, select it. Now, let's see what we can do. Paint some black on there. And yeah, you can see that, yeah, I'm getting the moment's face looking a lot nicer now. I'm clicking down, I'm holding for a while, and remember the mistake I made last time with the eraser? I've just done it again. But this time round, if I come over to my foreground and background colours, swap them over, now I'm painting with white, I can paint that area out again. You can't do this with an eraser. There you go. I've just added white and this layer has come back all over again. Let's go to black. Paint out some of this. Yeah, that's working a lot better. I did this forearm as well last time, so let's come down here. And oh, I've made a mistake, I've gone too far. Alright, so go back to white again. And I can make my brush size smaller. And I can make more precise edits along the side of it. Now I got some of the baby's hair clipped there. There we are, it's getting brushed out again. This is really useful. Also, there's one thing as well. If I come back here, I'm using black, so I'm making a hole in this layer. You can see this little bit here, that would be very fiddly to get in with a standard eraser, but instead I'm just going to go right into the area, then swap around, use my white, and now I can use this to come along and get right into that corner and make the kind of shape there, with this sharp angle, that would be very difficult to do with an eraser. So you can see with layer masks, if I come over, there's my layer mask, and you can see a tiny little picture of all the black areas that I've made, which can be a useful reference. So the image without this layer, with this layer. The end result is the same, but the way of getting there, layer masks, they'll help you a lot more than erasers. Now, one final thing with this, if I want to export this out as a JPEG, first of all, I'd have to flatten the image. You can't save a JPEG or a PNG or whatever file you want with multiple layers, so come to Image, Flatten Image. Take a look at the Layers palette. I'm going to click on Flatten Image. Now, you've got just one layer. You can export that out as a JPEG or a PNG, whatever you want. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, maybe you consider clicking on one of the links below and check out my game called Disco Baby, which is on the iTunes Store or Android stores like Google Play. It has 3 different games in it: a memory game, a maths game for children, and a dance along with me game for toddlers to join in with. Thanks for your time.